Welcome back to Chats with Double A, all the things you wish you could say. I am your one host, Alyssa,
And I am Andrea.
and we are here today to talk about mental illness and how it is not a dirty word.
No. And everybody is affected by it, but won't talk about it. So we're going to talk about it.
So I will just start by being honest and forthright. Like I have dealt with mental illness problems ever since I was probably about 8 or 10 years old. Um, I have been suicidal multiple times throughout my life. Recently, within the last year, 4 times. Um, Mental illness is not anything that is new to me, but I never talked about it growing up. Andrea, why don't you share something for a minute?
Okay, like Alyssa, there have been a few times like I know for me, I really struggled in high school with mental health. I didn't know how to cope with it, went to counselors. Nobody seemed to help me. It was great, said no one. I wish I had gotten the help that I needed back then. Because as an adult looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I had gotten the help, I would be in such a different position, different area, different mindset than I am. But I also think that I had to get through some major challenges to go, okay, this is really impactful and I can relate to other people like Alyssa and like other people who are suicidal or have those suicide thoughts because I was there too. And as a teenager, it's even like harder because you're not fully cognitive and aware. You can't process things as an adult, as a teenager. You just can't do that. So,
True.
um, but on top of that, like growing up with dyslexia was really, really hard because I really thought that I was stupid because I didn't understand things. Um, and it was hard because the verbatims that were told to me by adults around me made me feel like I was stupid because they would use words that I would interpret as you are stupid. So, having
And
to
it's,
overcome all that.
well, I mean, it's really hard to overcome that and to start seeing yourself as something different than what you've seen yourself as for most of your life, you
Well,
know?
and if other people say it, it's coming from their perspective. So it's like, who do you believe? Your subconscious is trying to find um oh, what is that word? It's trying
Validation,
validation is also trying to
proof.
find like proof. It's trying to find proof. So what is being told, now it's going to search for proof. And if it's always being told the same thing, they're like, oh, see, there's the proof. There's the proof. You did
I
not
think
get good grades in Spanish. There's the proof.
it's like almost like your subconscious, when it's looking for its proof, is like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like,
Right.
oh, I see, told, like because you're gonna find what you're looking for.
Right. You will find what you're looking for because you put it out there.
Mhm. Yeah. So I think probably one of the most difficult things about overcoming, excuse me, something like that, where you've been told time and time and time again. In my case, when I was younger, um, I was told, so I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 4. And I was told constantly, you're too much, you're too loud. Um, definitely I talk too much, but that never went away. Uh, but you need to sit down, you need to be quiet, you need to do this, you need to do that. There was hardly ever any positive reinforcement for the things that I was good at. Like the fact that I could, if I really got into something, I could focus like a laser and it would be just, that hyper focus. Um, but sometimes when I would get like hyper focused on something that I liked and it wasn't what we were supposed to be doing, then I got in trouble. Um, so there's people telling you that like, oh, you're too much, you're too this, And so I think that my self-deprecation started when I was very, very young because I heard it all the time. And so it was one of those things where you hear it enough that you start to believe it and then you start to say it. And I think that's sometimes somewhat of a defense mechanism because if I say it about me, then if somebody else says it, it doesn't matter as much. Um, I definitely know that that is the way that I have dealt um, with being obese or fat or whatever you want to call it. Um, if I just say, yeah, and what's your point? You know, then it takes the power out of their hands and gives it back to myself to own what I want to be seen as. And so I think part of that has come from like years of counseling and therapy and um, a lot of self reflection. And I think that's one of the keys to overcoming uh, some mental illness is being able to self reflect and find like different things out about yourself. But there are some mental illnesses that require medication, that require extensive therapies and, you know, a lot of trial and error when it comes to medications, sometimes having to go to a facility to find that balance in the medication so that you can begin to heal the trauma that you have in your life. Uh, and some people will develop mental illness because of genetic factors, like it runs in their families. But then there's also people who will develop it because of circumstances in their life. So you think about like all of the people in the military who have PTSD because of the things that they have seen and experienced in their military service. By the way, anyone who's listening in the military, thank you for your service and keeping me safe. Uh, so there's just a lot of like misunderstanding and stigma around mental health and mental illness and treating those things and talking about them, especially when it comes to talking to kids about mental illness and mental health. It's very, very frowned upon. And I think that's sad because having a conversation, sharing experience could save someone's life.
I agree. And I also think that there should be more transparency about it. Transparency, and honesty. Like, yeah, this really sucks. Like, I had to send my son to a facility, because of disruptive mood dysregulation disorder on top of
That's a really long
depression.
one.
I know. and like DMDD, on top of anxiety and depression, on top of ADHD. So there's like a plethora, but it was to the point where a psychologist like is if you do not send him, this is the path he's headed on, incarceration. And I'm like, oh shit.
Right.
All right. We
Oh
have,
shit. That's not what we want. We
and
don't want
literally
that.
I was like going, okay, he recommended a facility. I am not gonna say where he went because right now I just need to keep that a little bit to me. But the dominoes to get him there fell so smooth and so fast. Like it was Wednesday when I reached out to them, he was there Saturday. And they only accept so many people. They only have 10 beds for boys and 10 beds for girls. So it's like they were full up until literally he got there. Like they were having somebody leave between Wednesday and Saturday. And I was like, are you kidding me? Okay. And I was grateful that there was a safe place for him. I mean, this is a child who ran away from school at 4, left the building, left the building at 4 years old. And I'm like, you think putting him in a building is gonna, at the age of 17, he's gonna get out of a building.
Much easier than at 4, for sure.
And it's like, it doesn't even matter. I'm like, okay. So I had to take him to the middle of nowheres and drop him off at this facility. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, there's no place around. He can't like escape. So, and he hated it. He really hated it. But he was able to work through things. Like it was almost like a forced thing for him. Like they had to work through things. And as a child, as a youth, as a teenager, sometimes you don't want talk therapy. You can't have talk therapy. There's play therapy, but that's for youth because he was in play therapy. Like the amount of therapy that my kids have had and I have had, we've had the whole gamut.
As did I and my siblings. Um, my siblings went to therapy when we were younger because my parents got divorced and I guess my mom said that we were having some adverse reactions to all of the changes and whatnot that were going on in our lives. I was the only one who continued therapy because I had more issues. Um, I have a lot of repressed memories, and I don't know why they are repressed. Um, but I can barely remember my life in California.
When did you move out of California?
1998, I was 10 years old.
Dang, girl. Okay, I don't remember most of my childhood.
And
Like,
there's very little that I remember like vividly about all the way up until high school. There's a couple of shining moments that were like really cool moments that happened like when I was in junior high or whatever. And then weirdly enough, I remember when we were learning about the Donner Party and my teacher made a cake that looked like a leg.
that's very
And
awkward memory.
and we ate it. Like I'm saying, like they're poignant for different reasons, but like
A leg cake.
oh, like no joke. And I think she even made it like red velvet, so it was like red inside,
Yuck. Yuck.
and it was like skin tone frosting, and it had toenails on the feet. Sorry, it's a vivid memory, dude.
That's so weird. That's so weird that you would
I
have that.
realize that, at least all the trauma made me hilarious.
You know what? I remember just snippets like that, like what you're saying. Very, very, like, I remember being on the horse charging at the house. That was
And you're like,
terrifying. I don't
the
even,
rest of it? Nope.
I was by myself. They were like, go right in the corral or whatever. And I'm like, I grabbed up.
How'd you get out of the corral?
No, no, it was, so they roped off the driveway. This is at my grandmother's house.
Yeah, yeah,
Roped off
yeah.
the driveway and opened up the
The pasture.
field. Yeah, the pasture. And then we had where the cars are, like the drive area. That.
Mhm.
So it was like up into the pasture, and then the horse from the pasture came charging at the house, like full on run. I
I
swear,
would be like peeing my pants, like, oh my gosh.
I swear, my aunt saw me and came running out of the house.
Noro.
And I was like,
Uh,
ugh. That horse literally stopped this close to that wall.
Oh my
The
gosh,
face
that's
of the horse.
crazy.
I swear she was on speed. Like, holy crap. But dude, I had really good memories on the horse too. That's really, really poignant. So I get the whole trauma based in youth will trigger stuff. And you know, I'm kind of doing this thing where I'm like, do I really need these memories?
So, I think like our minds just protect us,
I think
you
so
know,
too.
and I think it's important that our minds do that, but it's also important for us to realize that some of those things we need to remember and we'll have to like dig deep to find them.
Right.
Yeah. Which is
Ooh.
what is next on our list series?
Don't even know. And if you guys have any questions or any topics, let
Right.
us know.
I think our next one is depression and suicidal ideation.
Okay.
So be ready for the really hard discussion next time, y'all, because it's gonna be rough.
And it might be a few part one, part two.
There might be a couple parts for that one
Might
because
be a
it's
couple parts.
pretty massive to unpack. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, remember that you are valid, you are valued, and you're loved.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. See you.
Animo.